We are very pleased to have a special guest with us calling in from the Washington, D.C. area, and that is Mark Haaland, who is a West Point grad, class of 79, Lieutenant Colonel Mark Haaland, Director of Government Affairs at the Association of the U.S. Army. Mark, how are you today?
Hi, Ken. Doing terrific, and thank you very much for inviting me to your talk show.
Hey, I appreciate your time today. Very concerning news continues to come out of Ukraine. As we said, Admiral Kirby just speaking at the White House podium or Pentagon podium on what's happening. The meeting held this weekend with the president considered sending more troops into the region. What does the Association of the U.S. Army see happening in Ukraine?
Well, Ken, thank you very much. And my role here at AUSA, Association of the United States Army, is to help advocate for a strong Army with the Congress and DOD. You mentioned the ongoing DOD press conference, and so we're tracking that as well. We are the Professional Association of the United States Army, where we support the regular National Guard and the Army Reserve. With regards to the situation in Ukraine, AUSA, we strive to align and support the Department of Defense, the United States Army, and all they do. We do not, as AUSA, have a formal position with regards to the situation in Ukraine, but I can offer a few facts and thoughts as Mark Haaland, United States citizen, you might say. And I was listening to your show earlier today, and as we know, Russian President Vladimir Putin is essentially a dictator, and Russia's not a democracy. As you've noted, he's moved over 100,000 military forces to the eastern side of Ukraine. These forces came from the eastern side of Russia, so a very deliberate move on the part of Russia. Russia also has forces to the north of Ukraine in Belarus. So two sides of Ukraine have Russian forces prepared to do something. The United States government is also bringing some of our citizens home. We read that here this morning. But I'd like to reflect on our former President, Ronald Reagan, who would say, peace through strength. That was the strategy he had in supporting NATO, and it's worked well in the past. And I think it's important for NATO to be united and strong, as President Ronald Reagan would do himself with respect to Mr. Putin and Russia. I think you also noted just earlier that Balkan nations have also asked for the United States for support. So that ties in well with the comments that we're now hearing about the 8,500 troops on a higher state of alert for the United States.
Well,
so, now,
sure, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing AUSA does fully support is for the United States Congress to pass the 12 appropriations bills as soon as possible. You may be aware that our federal government is operating under a continuing resolution right now, which means we're operating at last year's funding levels. So from a standpoint of strength, it would be helpful for the Congress to pass the 12 appropriations bills so that not just DOD, but all the agencies of the federal government, which will be needed and are needed to address the world situation with Russia, with other aggressive actions by other countries such as China, Iran, North Korea that are ongoing. So to have the State Department funded at the fiscal year 22 levels, Department of Treasury, we need the State Department for diplomatic reasons, for Department of Treasury, to work financial and trade sanction issues, as well as then the DOD as the force of last resort, and also to take care of our veterans in this new fiscal year.
Well, that's something that the State Department's not funded and the Treasury Department's not funded. It is at last year's levels, but we have inflation. And you also can't start new initiatives under a continuing resolution. Now, we hear that the U.S. military is discussing moving troops into Eastern Europe. Jack McGurk, my colleague, pointed out the USS Harry Truman is moving into a position in the Eastern Mediterranean. There have been intelligence flights reported over the area, and 4,000 U.S. troops nearby in Poland and perhaps others in other countries. How is the U.S. prepared to really show force against this buildup of Russian troops off of Ukraine?
Well, I think with respect to the United States Army, the Army's priorities are people first, readiness, and modernization. And the Army, we're confident. We know that our Army is trained and ready. The Army takes pride in that, and the Army has the funding that it needs to do what it has to do, and the flexibility from the Congress. And we're also encouraged. Sarah Leahy's in the press today saying that they are making there's potential for good progress to be made before the continuing resolution expires coming up in a couple weeks. So, the way we can continue to help our Department of Defense through these appropriations is, for example, just to highlight modernization. The Army is undertaking its most extensive and important modernization in 40 years. And modernization will help the Army to be strong in the future as well as it's strong today.
Absolutely.
Does that help?
Absolutely. We've heard General McConville at your conference, at the Association U.S. Army Conference in Washington, talk about modernization of the U.S. Army. We were following the National Defense Authorization Act, which funds the U.S. military, that was approved by Congress and signed into law by the President December 27th. What are some of the funding elements in the National Defense Authorization that will help the U.S. Army, and what areas do you need further support?
Yes, well, thank you. So one of the most important authorizations in the NDA is, of course, the approval for the pay raise for our armed forces. And that's certainly important. And also the authorization for the military construction projects as well as the Army modernization projects. And so once the Congress now appropriates the money, they'll be able to move forward. But the Congress has been very supportive of the Army's Secretary of the Army Warmuth and Army Chief of Staff McConville's requests and their priorities for people first in the Army, readiness and modernization.
Absolutely, and we do want to thank you. Our project we've been working on for almost 8 years to update the chaplains' monuments at Arlington National Cemetery was recognized in the National Defense Authorization. I think it was page 538 of 2,000 pages of amendments, but we appreciate the support on this project of the Association of the U.S. Army. Yes,
AUSA has been very pleased to be able to support this very worthy project in support of the National Conference on Ministry in the Armed Forces to update and make improvements to the existing Protestant chaplains' monuments that are located at Arlington National Cemetery. And so we congratulate the conference for the great success of working with the Congress for the legislation, and we look forward to the improvements being made.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to that, and Admiral Robinson and the team, Captain Jack Lee, have been doing a great job on that. And
yes,
Bishop Derek Jones, a lot of great leadership, and we're moving forward on that. Hey, tell us a little bit about some of the programs of the Association of the U.S. Army. You got some great webinars. I've watched a few of them at lunchtime, and then also you had a conference scheduled in Huntsville this spring. Tell us about some of the things you have coming up.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. And certainly encourage everyone to check out our website, ausa.org, for the latest with podcasts as well as events that we have, virtual events that we have coming up. And then you mentioned Global Force in Huntsville, Global Force 2022. We're very excited to be back in Huntsville this year, live or in person. We will be meeting in Huntsville March 29th to the 31st. And again, this will be in person, and we have the full support of the United States Army. And so we'll have it's a combination of professional development opportunities for our wonderful United States Army, as well as industry opportunities. And at AUSA, we serve to help educate, inform, and connect, to help connect and inform industry and the Army and with Congress. And so looking forward to that.
Lieutenant Colonel Mark Haaland from the Association of the U.S. Army, Director of Government Affairs, thank you so much for joining us and providing your perspective today.
Thank you for inviting me, and go Army.